In 1982, the world was told that John Belushi's tragic death was caused by a drug overdose, but his brother, Jim, has held on to a secret that changes everything. Now, at 70 years old, he's breaking his silence about the hidden truth, the football injuries, the undiagnosed brain disease, and the Hollywood cover-up that has haunted him for decades. What really happened to SNL's wildest star? John Belushi wasn't just another comedian. He was a force of nature. Born on January 24, 1949 in Chicago, Illinois, to hard-working Albanian immigrant parents, he grew up in a strict but loving household. His father, Adam, arrived in the U.S. as a teenager in 1934, working his way up from restaurant kitchens to owning his own business. His mother, Agnes, was born in Ohio and balanced work as a pharmacy assistant before dedicating herself to raising their 4 children. In a home where discipline and perseverance were core values, laughter was a constant. Even in tough times, John had 3 siblings, Marion, Jim, and Billy, and from an early age, he had an undeniable talent for making people laugh. His parents supported his natural comedic gift, even if they didn't fully understand it. But comedy wasn't his only love. At Wheaton Central High School, he became co-captain of the football team, earning the nickname Killer Belushi for his aggressive playing style. But deep down, his true passion lay in performance. His high school drama teacher, Dan Payne, recognized his potential and helped him land a summer job in a professional theater in 1967. That experience changed everything. John knew he was meant to entertain, yet few know that John was also a musician. During high school, he played drums and sang in a band called The Ravens. They even recorded a single in 1965, Listen to Me Now, and Jolly Green Giant. It didn't become a hit, but for John, the stage was already home. After high school, he faced a tough choice: continue with football at Western Illinois University or pursue entertainment. He chose the latter, bouncing between colleges before co-founding a comedy group, the West Compass Players. They performed in small venues, but John was honing his craft, learning how to dominate a room with sheer presence. Then came the moment that changed his life. In February 1971, at just 22 years old, John auditioned for Chicago's legendary improv theater, Second City. He had no formal training, but his raw energy was undeniable. The directors couldn't ignore him. He was unpredictable, loud, and fearless. He secured a spot in the troupe, earning only $150 a week. But it didn't matter. He was exactly where he was meant to be. Second City became his proving ground, shaping his style and introducing him to lifelong collaborators like Harold Ramis and Brian Doyle Murray. But Second City was just the start. In 1972, John joined National Lampoon's off-Broadway hit, Lemmings, a satirical take on Woodstock. Sharing the stage with future comedy legends Chevy Chase and Christopher Guest, John delivered unforgettable performances, including a parody of Jesus Christ Superstar. The show was a sensation, running for 350 performances and catching the attention of industry insiders, including one man who would change John's life forever, Lorne Michaels. By 1975, Michaels was assembling the cast for a revolutionary late-night comedy show, Saturday Night Live. At first, he hesitated, unsure if Belushi's explosive style would fit his vision. But after a single audition, he was sold. Belushi became one of SNL's original cast members, alongside Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, and Jane Curtin. The first episode aired on October 11, 1975, and from the moment John hit the screen, he was electric. Behind the scenes, however, it wasn't smooth sailing. NBC offered the cast $750 per show under strict 5-year contracts, a deal Belushi initially refused to sign. It was only at the last minute, with the persuasion of his soon-to-be manager Bernie Brillstein, that he agreed. SNL's first season was chaos, the set unfinished just hours before airtime, but John thrived in the madness. His energy was contagious, setting a new standard for comedic performance. His characters became instant classics. The samurai warrior hilariously placed in everyday jobs, the over-the-top Olympia cafe owner barking out "Cheeseburger, cheeseburger," No Coke, Pepsi, and his pitch-perfect impersonations of Henry Kissinger and Joe Cocker. His Joe Cocker impression was so spot-on that when the real Cocker joined him on stage, audiences could barely tell them apart. But while John was lighting up the screen, the pressure behind the scenes was crushing. SNL's grueling schedule and relentless demands took a toll. John, like many in the industry, turned to cocaine to keep up. At first, it was a way to power through sleepless nights, but soon it became something much darker. Yet, despite his struggles, his performances never wavered. Week after week, he delivered some of the most legit. Belushi's career kept moving forward, but success couldn't silence his demons. In 1979, he took on a starring role in 1941, a high-budget World War II comedy directed by Steven Spielberg. With an all-star cast and sky-high expectations, it seemed like a sure win. But critics were divided, and while it made money, it never reached the iconic status of Animal House or The Blues Brothers. Then, in 1981, he made a surprising move with Continental Divide, a romantic comedy where he played a tough journalist who falls for a quiet scientist. It was a softer, more serious role. Cocaine wasn't just part of his life, it was taking over. On Animal House, he was already using heavily, but by The Blues Brothers, his addiction was causing production delays and skyrocketing costs. Those closest to him, especially his wife, Judith Jacqueline Belushi, were desperately trying to save him. She had been his high school sweetheart, his biggest supporter, and the woman who helped shape the Blues Brothers. But love couldn't compete with addiction. His erratic behavior, long disappearances, and growing dependency created a distance between them that she couldn't bridge. No matter how hard she fought, she couldn't pull him back. After his tragic death, she made it her mission to protect his legacy, ensuring that the world remembered not just the man who struggled, but the brilliant artist he was. She later remarried and became Judith Jacqueline Belushi Pisano, but her dedication to keeping his memory alive never wavered. In July 2024, after a battle with cancer, she passed away, leaving behind her own legacy, one that ensured John Belushi would never be forgotten. Belushi's insecurities ran deep, even as his fame skyrocketed. Saturday Night Live made him a household name, Animal House turned him into a box office sensation, and The Blues Brothers proved he was more than just a funny man. But every success brought more pressure. He had to be the wildest, the funniest, the best. He watched Chevy Chase leave SNL for Hollywood and felt the weight of competition. To keep up, he worked harder, pushed himself further, and turned to cocaine as his fuel. Hollywood in the late 70s and early 80s was drowning in drugs, and Belushi was caught in the tide. He tried to stop. During Continental Divide, he made a serious attempt at sobriety, even hiring a bodyguard to keep drugs away. For a brief moment, it worked. But then came Neighbors, a disastrous film experience that sent him spiraling back into addiction. His mood swings worsened, his anger boiled over, and his old habits took hold. The control he fought so hard for slipped away. By February 28, 1982, Belushi was in Los Angeles, supposedly working on a new script. Instead, he checked into Bungalow 3 at the Chateau Marmont, a secluded haven for Hollywood's elite, and began a downward spiral of non-stop partying. He spent his nights bouncing between the Roxy, the Rainbow Bar and Grill, and Dan Tana's, searching for escape. Friends like Robert De Niro and Harry Dean Stanton visited, hoping to pull him out of his haze, but he refused to leave. His wife, back in New York, was desperately worried. Then came the night of March 4th. That evening, Kathy Smith, a woman with a history of drug use, injected him with a lethal speedball, heroin, and cocaine. The next morning, his bodyguard, Bill Wallace, found him unresponsive. He tried CPR, but it was too late. John Belushi was dead at just 33 years old. His death rocked Hollywood. The Chateau Marmont became the center of a media frenzy, swarmed with reporters and camera crews desperate for details. Was Belushi battling more than addiction? Hollywood has changed since his time. Addiction and mental health are now openly discussed, and there's more support for struggling stars. But back then, Belushi was fighting his demons alone. His tragic story remains one of Hollywood's most painful losses. Yet his legacy endures. In 2004, he was posthumously awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a tribute to his groundbreaking work. Saturday Night Live